Marine Sergeant Thea Blackwood watched Admiral Harrison reach for her rifle during the joint training exercise, his voice carrying across the range. "Let me show you how it's really done, young lady." The 31-year-old sniper specialist had heard condescending remarks before, but having a Navy officer attempt to demonstrate marksmanship with her custom-built precision rifle crossed every line of military protocol and professional respect. What the Admiral didn't know was that he was about to embarrass himself in front of 200 Marines and Navy personnel while challenging the woman who held the longest confirmed kill-shot record in Marine Corps. History. Sergeant Thea Blackwood stood at the firing line of Camp Pendleton's premier marksmanship range, her lean frame perfectly still as she prepared for the joint service training demonstration. At 31, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned respect through precision rather than politics. The California morning air was crisp and clear, perfect conditions for long-range shooting. Her weathered hands gripped a custom-built .40-A6 sniper rifle that had been modified to her exact specifications. Every component had been carefully selected and adjusted over years of combat deployments, creating a weapon system that responded to her touch like an extension of her own body. The rifle bore small scratches and wear marks that told stories of missions most people would never hear about. 200 Marines and Navy personnel had gathered for this inter-service marksmanship competition designed to foster cooperation between branches. Admiral Harrison commanded the Navy contingent, while Colonel Martinez led the Marine participants. Stories about warriors like Thea show us what dedication really means. Consider subscribing to hear more about the incredible men and women who serve with distinction. What made this demonstration unusual was that it would test skills at ranges exceeding beyond 200 yards, distances where wind, temperature, and humidity could make the difference between success and failure. Thea's exceptional marksmanship abilities traced back to her childhood in rural Wyoming, where her father ran a professional hunting guide service. From age 8, she'd accompanied him on expeditions, learning to read wind patterns, calculate bullet drop, and most importantly, to remain absolutely still for hours while waiting for the perfect shot. Her father, a former Army Ranger, taught her that shooting wasn't about strength or aggression. It was about patience, mathematics, and complete mental control. By 14, Thea could consistently hit targets at distances that challenged experienced hunters. Her father recognized something special in his daughter's ability to process multiple variables simultaneously, while maintaining perfect breathing control and trigger discipline. When she enlisted in the Marines at 18, her shooting scores broke several training records at Paris Island. Her military service included 4 combat deployments to Afghanistan, where she served as a scout sniper with 2nd Battalion 5th Marines. During her 3rd deployment, Thea had made a confirmed kill shot at 1,847 yards, saving an entire patrol from an ambush. The shot required calculating for altitude, temperature, humidity, and crosswinds that were gusting unpredictably through mountain valleys. What drove Thea wasn't personal glory or recognition. She understood that precision shooting in combat meant protecting Marines who depended on her skills to come home alive. Every shot she took carried the weight of someone else's life, making her dedication to perfection both personal and professional. The tension began during the pre-shooting briefing when Admiral Harrison questioned the Marines' choice to have a female shooter represent their branch in the precision shooting demonstration. He'd addressed his concerns directly to Colonel Martinez, speaking loud enough for nearby personnel to hear his doubts about whether someone of Thea's size could handle the recoil of high-powered rifle ammunition. Colonel Martinez had defended Thea's selection based on her proven combat record, but Admiral Harrison remained skeptical. His experience came primarily from ceremonial shooting events and Navy training exercises that rarely exceeded 300-yard distances. He'd made several comments about Marines lowering their standards to accommodate political correctness rather than maintaining combat effectiveness. The situation escalated when Admiral Harrison approached Thea directly at the firing line. He examined her custom rifle with obvious skepticism, questioning several modifications that he claimed looked non-standard and potentially unsafe. When Thea explained the technical rationale behind each modification, The Admiral interrupted with a patronizing lecture about following established military specifications. His criticism grew more pointed as he noticed the rifle's bipod adjustments and scope settings, which he claimed were inappropriate for the shooting conditions. Several Marines and Navy personnel gathered around, watching the confrontation with growing discomfort. Thea maintained professional composure while explaining her equipment choices, but Admiral Harrison's dismissive attitude made it clear he viewed her expertise as suspect. The breaking point came when Admiral Harrison reached for Thea's rifle without permission, announcing his intention to demonstrate proper shooting technique. His gesture violated multiple protocols regarding personal weapons handling, and the presumption behind his actions stunned everyone present. The Admiral's behavior crossed the line from professional disagreement into disrespectful grandstanding. Thea realized that this wasn't about marksmanship techniques or equipment choices. It was about an officer who couldn't accept that an enlisted woman might possess superior skills. In what he considered a traditionally male domain, Thea felt her jaw tighten as Admiral Harrison's hand moved toward her rifle. The weapon wasn't just equipment to her. It was a precision instrument that had been carefully calibrated to her specific shooting style and physical characteristics. Allowing someone else to handle it without proper preparation could throw off the scope alignment and trigger adjustments that had been perfected over thousands of rounds. More troubling was the Admiral's assumption that he could simply take over and demonstrate superior technique. Thea had spent years earning the respect of Marine snipers, who initially questioned whether a woman could meet the physical and mental demands of precision shooting. She'd proven herself through performance in conditions where failure meant casualties, not embarrassment. The memory of her first combat deployment flashed through her mind, when a senior NCO had similarly doubted her capabilities until she'd made 3 consecutive kills at distances exceeding 1,000 yards. Each shot had neutralized threats that endangered Marine patrols, and her accuracy had earned grudging respect from even the most skeptical colleagues. But this situation felt different. Admiral Harrison wasn't questioning her abilities based on combat performance or training scores. He was making assumptions based on gender and rank that ignored her proven expertise. The presence of 200 spectators made his challenge more than personal criticism. It was a public test of her professional credibility. Thea took a deep breath and made her decision. Sometimes proving your worth required letting others expose their own limitations. Colonel Martinez stepped forward, attempting to defuse the situation by suggesting that both shooters demonstrate their techniques separately. But Admiral Harrison had already committed to his course of action, insisting that proper military protocol required him to verify the safety and effectiveness of modified equipment before allowing its use in joint exercises. The crowd of observers grew larger as word spread about the confrontation. Marines and Navy personnel formed distinct groups, with obvious tension building between the services. Some Navy officers nodded approvingly at their admiral's intervention, while Marines exchanged glances that suggested they expected fireworks. Admiral Harrison examined Thea's rifle with exaggerated thoroughness, pointing out modifications that he claimed deviated from standard specifications. His commentary grew more detailed and condescending as he explained to the gathered audience why civilian modifications compromised military effectiveness and reliability. The Admiral's confidence was clearly building as he handled the weapon. He adjusted the bipod legs and examined the scope settings, making small changes while explaining proper technique to the assembled crowd. Several Navy personnel voiced agreement with his observations, creating an atmosphere where Thea's expertise was being publicly questioned and dismissed. When Admiral Harrison finally positioned himself behind the rifle, the range fell silent. The target was positioned at 1,200 yards, a distance that would challenge even experienced marksmen under ideal conditions. Light crosswinds were beginning to pick up as the morning progressed, adding complexity to an already difficult shot. Thea watched quietly as the Admiral settled into what he considered proper shooting position. His form looked textbook perfect for shorter distances, but she noticed several subtle errors that would become magnified at extended range. Admiral Harrison took his time lining up the shot, making a show of checking wind conditions and adjusting his breathing pattern. The crowd watched in tense silence as he prepared to fire Thea's custom rifle. His confidence was obvious as he settled into position, clearly expecting to demonstrate superior marksmanship technique. The first shot missed the target completely. The Admiral looked surprised, blaming the miss on unfamiliarity with the modified rifle. He made several scope adjustments and repositioned himself for a second attempt. This shot struck the target but scored poorly, hitting nearly 18 inches from the bullseye. After a third miss, Admiral Harrison began making excuses about the rifle modifications throwing off his accuracy. He suggested that the custom components were creating inconsistent performance and claimed that standard military rifles would produce better results. His frustration was becoming obvious as murmurs spread through the crowd. Thea stepped forward and quietly asked permission to demonstrate the rifle's capabilities. Without changing any of the Admiral's adjustments, she settled into position behind her weapon. Her movements were fluid and economical, showing none of the overthinking that had characterized the Admiral's approach. She fired 5 shots in rapid succession, each one finding the bullseye with precision that left the crowd stunned. The shots were clustered so tightly that they could be covered by a silver dollar at 1,200 yards, a display of accuracy that exceeded even expert expectations. The range fell completely silent as spotters confirmed the shot grouping. Admiral Harrison stared at the target in disbelief, unable to comprehend how the same rifle that had betrayed his shooting had responded perfectly to Thea's touch. The aftermath was swift and decisive. Colonel Martinez approached Admiral Harrison with barely concealed satisfaction, noting that Sergeant Blackwood had just demonstrated why she'd been selected for the joint exercise. The Admiral's face flushed red as he realized the magnitude of his error in judgment and protocol violation. Word of the incident spread rapidly through both Marine and Navy communications networks. Admiral Harrison's assumption that he could outshoot a decorated Marine sniper became legendary for all the wrong reasons. The story emphasized the importance of respecting expertise, regardless of rank or service branch, and several senior officers used the incident as a teaching moment about professional humility. More significantly, Thea's demonstration led to formal recognition of her modifications and techniques. Her custom rifle configurations were studied and adopted by other precision shooters, and she was invited to contribute to updated marksmanship training protocols for joint service operations. The Admiral later approached Thea privately to apologize for his presumptuous behavior. He admitted that his Navy experience hadn't prepared him for the complexities of long-range precision shooting, and acknowledged that he'd allowed personal biases to cloud his professional judgment. Their conversation became the foundation for improved cooperation between Marine and Navy marksmanship programs. The real victory wasn't embarrassing a senior officer, but demonstrating that expertise deserves respect, regardless of who possesses it. When Thea called her father that evening, she could hear the pride in his voice as she described how his lessons about patience and precision had once again proven their worth.